What's up, y'all? This is Henny. It's Friday, and god damn it, I need a drink. Shout out to Hendrix. So today I want to talk about what's the best DAW or Digital Audio Workstation for your iPad, your iOS device. You know, I get a lot of people asking me which is the best DAW to use on the iPad, and I've used quite a few. So I want to get into it. Which DAWs I use the most, why I use them, and how they can benefit you in certain ways. So, boom, let's get to it. The three main digital audio workstations that I use over the course of the last 2.5 years have been Cubasis 2, Beatmaker 2, and Aria Pro. Now, I started out trying to figure out how I could mimic Logic Pro on my iPad. And so I was looking for something that I could not only do audio in, not only that I could do, drum programming and synth plugins in, but something that was, fairly easy to understand and, pretty organized. So that's when I went to Beatmaker 2 first. What I love about Beatmaker 2, it's clearly laid out. If you understand anything about Beatmaker 2, that you can get started easily, drums, keyboards, audio, or even, using different apps within this app. And so what I first started doing was importing all of my drums into Beatmaker 2. And how I did it was I'll start a track, I'll add a drum track. Let's see. These are some drum tracks that I've personally built. But if you go in here and you say, I want to do file transfer. What this does is you can create a connection between your computer and your iOS device or your iPad, and you put in the IP address and you put in the port number, you log in and you use the password, and what it will give you is an interface to drag and drop files into this app specifically. So that's what I did with my drums. I imported all the drums that I was using, all the bass sounds, some of the samples that I was using, really just something to get me started so that I could build a lot better and give me a way that I could build like my drums like how I normally would and get the quality that I'm used to. So that's how I built my drum samples. So if I go in here and let's say I want to add another drum, and I'll show you something like, I don't know, Henny'z beat kit. Now, if I click on this, you can see I have all of these sounds. Of course, they're not playing right now, but you feel me what I'm saying. I have all my sounds. I have all these different banks filled with all of these drum sounds that I used to create. That was cool. The second thing that I did was add a few different keyboard sound pieces that I like my 808, and a couple other bass sounds, just things that I knew I would need over time, because I'm always using 808s underneath, my basses. I'm always trying to find, like, there's some sounds that I have that I've sampled over years that I just use, and so I created the same type of idea with their keyboard patch. So just like with the drum pads, I added sounds, and I'll take a sound that I want to map across the keys, like an 808. I'll go to mapping. You see, I only have one layer, but you can actually, I have two layers. I have a kick, and another kick, and one is going halfway through the keyboard, the other is going all the way through. And you can see, if I wanted to add another layer, I'll load samples for my content. These are all the sounds that I have. You can add any type of sound. I could add this little bass sound there, load it in, and you can refine it. You can tune it, you can pan it, you can change the pitch. All these things are which are great for this DAW, and I'm able to create sounds just like I would, in EXS or something like that, battery, something that I was using in Logic. And when it comes to sequencing, if I load up a track, any of these tracks, it's easy for me to go to select all of it, and basically spread the track out. I can easily take pieces here and there out as I'm sequencing the track like I would do in Logic. The mixer, it has effects on each sound, up to 3 effects on each sound, and the mixer will give you your pans, your adjustments, your you can have effect sends, all of that, all up in BeatMaker 2. And you can put sounds on, you can put effects on your main channel. These are all the effects that it comes with. And this is a 5-year-old app. So when I tell you BeatMaker 3 is going to blow people's minds, it really is. But BeatMaker 2 has held me down. I've done hundreds of tracks inside of BeatMaker 2. And, you can see it when you export. You can export the whole song. You export the loop, the audio file in WAV or AIFF. You can separate the tracks or have it all tracks. The convenience of that is what's made BeatMaker 2 invaluable to me in certain cases. Now, when it came to loading up plugins or, loading up different instruments inside of this app, I was having some difficulty sometimes where it would be a little bit glitchy, or it wouldn't necessarily load up correctly, and I'd get frustrated. As well as I love the Audio Share app, and I wanted an easier way to import sounds into this app, and it wasn't as easy because of course it was built 5 years ago. And so I still love BeatMaker 2. I use it. This was the first DAW that I started using in iOS, and I still go back to it from time to time just because some of the sounds and some of the kits that I already built inside of this app, it's just a little bit more convenient for me to go back to and build from that. And that's BeatMaker 2. That's one of the first DAWs that I really used and I liked. Now, don't get me wrong. GarageBand is free on the iPad. You can definitely get your ideas started and make some amazing things with GarageBand as well. And it syncs well with Logic. I just wanted a little bit more flexibility. I wanted a little bit more that I could do with the Digital Audio Workstation. And so I stopped using GarageBand after a few days, just because I know that it's more an introductory type of digital audio workstation versus a full-blown DAW that you can, really track, mix, record, and do everything you want. And I was looking for something that could completely replace what I was doing on a laptop. That's why I didn't stick too much with GarageBand. But people have made amazing things with GarageBand. People have been getting placements and winning awards from stuff that they're doing on GarageBand, on their phone, and on their iPad. So don't take that lightly as saying that it's not worth looking into. It's just not one of the ones that I was using. Now, the second one I went to was Aria Pro. Now, Aria Pro is the closest thing you can possibly get to Pro Tools on your iPad. Let me load up the stock song, and as you can see, you can go to the mix window. It looks very similar to a DAW that you use on a computer. And what you can do with this app is really amazing. The problem that I had with this app was it wasn't as easy for me to really produce over my records. It was more of a mixing app, and everything from their effects and the channel strip and everything that they have built in was more of a finishing type of DAW where you can automate and do everything that you could possibly want to do to make your mix ready for distribution. And so I wasn't looking necessarily for that type of digital audio workstation. So if you're somebody who wants to track a lot more live instrumentation, if you're somebody who wants to track a lot more vocals, if you're somebody who really wants to dive into mixing on the iPad and really getting a very pristine sound from your music, Aria Pro would be the way to go. But I'm more on the creation point because, of course, I usually take my music to the studio and we'll already load it into Pro Tools, so I don't need the finishing version of an app for my daily use. It's more so like if I was on the road, if we're doing a project and I did not have a Pro Tools rig with me, or was working with different artists or with my engineer or something like that, this would be something that I'd really use to get my music ready for putting it out to the world. That's Aria Pro, and that's why I use it time to time, but not that often. But it's an amazing app, and it's very full-fledged with pretty much anything you could think about for mixing and editing music on the iPad. The third DAW that I use now most frequently is really a DAW that I would say is in between Aria Pro and Beatmaker 2, and that's Cubase's 2. Now let me talk about that. Now with Cubase's, you see it can have a similar look as a Logic, as a Pro Tools. It can be color coordinated, all of that. I talked about this app in other videos, but briefly, this thing has the ability to have great mixing effects, channel strips on each channel, studio effects that you can use, and also audio unit effects that I use from time to time as well. Sends, automation, the whole nine. It works easily with something like Audio Share, where if I need to send an idea straight to Cubase's, I just go here, boom, tap Cubase's, and it sends right into the audio files in here. I've built, a few drums tracks using their mini sampler. If you go to the media, you go to instruments, mini sampler, I've created my instruments right here, the fills, percussions, my 808, similar to what I did on Beatmaker 2, and that's just to help speed things up for myself. But like if I went to my drums, you can see in here, every kick, snare, I imported using their mini sampler. You can reverse stuff. I didn't mean to do that. You can fade stuff in. You can normalize. So you can see that you can have tons of samples that you can use with a Bluetooth keyboard, or you can use, directly on the screen itself to create kits for yourself to make it easier. And so I built a few, drums that way, and 808 basses and drops and stuff like that. And so when it comes to sequencing, the same type of thing. You can select all of your stuff. You can copy it out. The problem is it gets kind of funny. It's like I have to actually go to Audio 1 sometimes. Sometimes I make sure that the lock on is on bars. Set it all the way to where you want it to copy and paste. Because some other times it just pastes funny stuff like that. Or, when you go into media and you go to audio files. I have so many audio files that I've imported. Sometimes it takes a minute to cache all the way in and bring all those files back up so that I can use them. And that's an inconvenience. That's one of my biggest gripes about Cubase's at this point, is the way that they have their audio categorization set up. Like I can't set my own folders inside this, this part of the app. And I wish I could have just had like, okay, these are, if I go to my audio files, why can't I just have something that says drums and just something that says basses or samples or whatever? So it's easier for me to organize the sounds. It's basically all just in here. And the only way you can kind of go through them is either do it by name or do it by date modified or by size. And it can be very inconvenient. There's no search tab. There's no way to really find the files that you want. But knowing how I'm usually creating is, chronologically. So I know that the newer stuff is at the top if I go by date modified, and that's kind of how I've been doing it. So there are some quirks that I feel like should, and further updates should really help. But other than that, I mean, between that and some of the other things, it's a very, very solid app. The exporting is easy, and the sound that I'm getting from it sounds great. And I use most of the apps inside of this, or I'll use something like Bloxwave and import all those files directly into the audio files of this app, and then start creating from there. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to create dope tracks, dope instrumentals, some remixes, stuff like that. And if I really have to do audio, I have not recorded too much audio directly inside of this, but I've taken a lot of audio files, brought them in here, and worked it like it was Logic. So it works well. It works very, very well, and their effects are great. So even if you go to the mixer tab and you go over here to your main stereo out and say you want to add an effect, they got really cool things like their Spin Effects app, where I've showed in other adventures where I can literally play with the filter on a specific track, or reverse a track, stutter step, and it gives you really cool ideas to slow stuff down, speed stuff up, chop it up, and it's automated. So those things can make your tracks stand out a lot more. So really look into Cubase's too if that's something that you're looking for. But when it comes down to the different three that I'm using, Beatmaker 2 is a staple. I know a lot of homies that swear by it. It's reliable. It works well. Aria Pro, there's people who swear by that as well, but they might be more on the engineering side or the tracking side as somebody who wants to really bring in live musicianship and stuff like that, as well as vocals and things of that sort. But number 3 is like with Cubasis, it's kind of like in the middle and can do both well. It's up to date, and it's really giving me a good sound. So that's pretty much the 3 that I really dig into, besides GarageBand, like I talked about before. And a lot of people will talk about Core Gadget, not saying, why don't you talk about Core Gadget more? Now, if you look at this and all their different sound banks that they have, these sounds are amazing, right? It's just a sequencer, and the way they do audio importing and exporting, that just made it a little difficult for me to make it as my main go-to for your digital audio workstation. But the fact that they have this on the iOS and also now on Mac, for somebody like me, it might be something I need to take a look back into. But the fact that I really can still use these sound banks using something like Audio Bus 3 to import it into Cubasis, import it into Bloxwave, something that I'm used to using. I would rather use a heftier sequence-based digital audio workstation that works well with copy paste, pinch in out to zoom, stuff like that. I'm used to with iOS device apps, and so I don't use that as much for a DAW. Those are my 3 DAWs that I use. Right now, my best one would be Cubasis 2. And for anybody out there looking to really get into finding a DAW for your iOS device, I would say do your research, know exactly how you create and what things you're really looking for, and make an investment. These investments are really not that expensive when you think about audio production in these day and times. You're talking about maybe a $30, $40 app, maybe a $50 app. And you buy something like Logic Pro on the Mac, it's going to be $200 off top, which is a standard. Pro Tools, you might be paying something like $25 a month to have Pro Tools on your on your laptop or something like that. But telling you these things have all the capabilities you need to really get going and really make it happen. So here's the thing. It doesn't matter which DAW you use. The main thing is that you take the time to really understand it so that you can get the best out of it. But understand, there's no one best DAW for anybody. Everybody has their certain ways that they create. Everybody has their certain ways that they want to get their music out. And, the main thing is to learn that app inside and out so that you can get the best out of it. And it takes time. So put the hours in and figure out how to get the best out of these apps on your device. Because when you do, you'll realize you might not have to go back to your laptop. Shit, I haven't. And it's been working out very well. I ain't gonna lie. So yeah, that was it. And I'm gonna leave you with this. I know a lot of us producers out there can get very disgruntled about why we don't get our just due. Why don't we get the credit? Why don't we get the light for everything that we put our hard work into? What we have to make sure is that we understand the business just as much as we understand the creation. And understand that building these relationships, making sure your business is right, making sure that you know exactly how you get paid, exactly how you're supposed to take care of your work. And most importantly, have integrity with your business. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for what you know you're worth. And what we have to do is create an alliance. But it's not going to be easy because almost like crabs in a bucket, everybody's just trying to climb their way to the top. And a lot of times they're kicking people off left and right just to get that shine, just to get that spot. Problem is that spot doesn't always last that long. You want to be in this business as a career? Understand you're going to have to build these relationships. You're going to have to build them and make them last. And that goes for all parts of this business, whether it be the management, whether it be your colleagues, your other producers, other songwriters, whether it be the A&Rs or the executives or the artists themselves. And especially with the fans. You got to build relationships all around to keep yourself relevant, to keep yourself current, and know that when you fall, people won't just kick you to the side and be like, it's over for that guy. You will have built relationships that they will lend a helping hand and say, hey, man, I got you. What you need? Let's figure something out. Those are the things that's going to take you to that next step. But if we don't build these alliances, we'll end up 5 years from now talking about the same shit, frustrated that producers and songwriters are not getting our just due. Let's start with a community. Let's start with a place that we can actively come together, voice our frustrations to each other to build a platform big enough that the industry will take notice and make changes. That's where it starts. But we got to connect. We got to stay strong. We got to figure this out. You got to stay on top of your shit. Study the business just as much as you study the craft. Because this game will shoot you up and it'll pull you down. Find the balance. And that's what it is. That's all I got for today, baby. It's the Hangout. It's Henny. It's Friday. You know where I'm at. I'll be here next week. Even if I got to thug my way through it, we always going to get to it. Hit 'em up!